Before starting in on any new WordPress plugin, there are a few things you should do first. This module will help you figure out what you need to start building your first WordPress plugin. By far, my most popular download available on WordPress.org is my Progress Bar plugin with almost 6,000 downloads at the time this course was written. It had a very simple premise and a specific use case. I wanted a plugin that displayed a progress bar. Period. In the past, I had a use for this for blog posts updating the status of a particular project I was working on, and had to do things like build my own divs or iframes and CSS styles to do it. In WordPress, this is problematic because you need to flip to the text editor, and sometimes WordPress will clean your code if it doesn't recognize what you're doing. The easiest solution would be a simple shortcode, a sort of macro for WordPress that allows you to add code or execute functions within a post or a page. All this plugin would do is let you add a shortcode, say progress equals 80, and the progress bar would appear in the post. It was such a simple solution that could be used in a variety of different ways that I thought surely there had to be a plugin that did it already. But I searched the plugins repository, and not only was there not a plugin simply named Progress Bar, but all the plugins that did anything remotely similar were far too complex for what I wanted, adding options pages or custom post types, and all I wanted was a progress bar. Since there wasn't a plugin that did what I wanted, I decided to make one. The ideal situation for building a plugin for public release is when your plugin fills a specific need that isn't solved by an existing plugin. As designers and developers, often we need something for a specific use or project and end up building the plugin for ourselves, at least to start. And if other people find it useful, then great. This was the case for Progress Bar. Of course, there are other times when you want to do something and there are existing plugins, but none of the existing plugins seem to solve the particular issue you are dealing with. When I wrote WordPress Wiki that doesn't suck, I had a specific use in mind. I needed a section of my site for support documentation. I'd used MediaWiki, but I always had to remember the quirks of wiki markup and really just wanted to use plain HTML and standard formatting, and I preferred the documentation to be in my existing WordPress site rather than building a completely separate MediaWiki site. There were some single sign-on plugins and some things that could pull data from one platform to another, and even a few wiki-like plugins, but the ones I found still left me wishing for something a little different. So I wrote WordPress Wiki that doesn't suck, because for me, every other solution I found did, or hadn't been kept up to date. It adds a custom post type so the documentation is kept separate from other content and can live on its own unique page or section of the site. Since I was building it for myself, initially I didn't bother with things like adding a display page for people to use, though later I added some page templates to the plugin that could be modified to suit the theme. But even that wasn't the best solution for someone unfamiliar with theme development. For myself, I built a custom directory template and a single wiki article template styled the way I wanted it. Later, I added a shortcode to display all the wiki posts on any WordPress post or page, so no theme customization was necessary. For both these plugins, the first step was figuring out what else was out there and if it did the thing I needed. If the answer was yes, I would have happily used something else, but nothing seemed quite right. No matter what your plans for your plugin are, it's a good idea to see what else is out there. If you're planning on selling your plugin or extensions or related services, you need to know who your competition is. If you're building a site for a client, you may be better off using a plugin that already exists rather than trying to reinvent the wheel. Maybe the developer is open to contributions or pull requests, and you can add your functionality to an existing plugin or be added as a contributor. WordPress is all about community. You don't need to go it alone if you don't have to. WordPress is loaded with hooks and helper functions that can be used to simplify your coding. So, just like checking the repository to see what other plugins are out there that do what you want, you should be aware of any functions available that you can use to do what you want with your plugin, rather than writing a lot of code that will ultimately be duplicating the functionality of something WordPress has baked in. The Codex is the best resource for hooks and functions outside of looking at the source code yourself. Before you set out to write your first plugin, you should refer to the plugins and writing a plugin articles in the Codex, some of which will be covered in this course.